Public safety meeting to order.
Here you go.
Mr. Clerk, can we call the roll, please?
Chairman Leahy,
Here.
Counsel Leary,
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
3 present.
Thank you. So we're here for Public Safety Subcommittee meeting, March 22nd. First on the agenda, a motion by myself and Councilor Samaras. City Council requests the manager have superintendent of schools provide a protocol, provide protocol for response procedures regarding student safety. So with us tonight, we have Dr. Calfawi. Yes, all right, sorry. And Assistant Superintendent Janine Durkin. So why don't I open the floor up to Dr. Calfawi. We have our packets with us, and if you want to bring us through your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for inviting us. I'm happy to be here, and I'm going to quickly turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Durkin to go over the packet, and then we'll open it up. If you have any questions, we will be very happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Calfawi. Thank you, members of City Council, for inviting us here this evening and to share our safety protocols that we have in place in the Lowell Public Schools. When I came on board in 2013, then Assistant Superintendent Ann Murphy said to me that there were some new protocols and items that were coming forth from the state and recommendations, and that would be something that we would really need to focus on. So very early on in my tenure, I developed a district team to respond to that. And what you have in your packet, I can explain to you. On the right-hand side of that packet is just a list of action steps that have been taken by the school department since 2013 in August. And then on the left-hand side are some added items that show you the protocols and information that has been put together by the district team relative to the safety planning. So we developed early on a critical incident response team. We knew in a district this size that we needed to respond to a number of different emergencies throughout the course of the year. And we wanted to make sure that we had a good, solid plan in place to do that. So on the left-hand side, in your safety plan template, which is the crisis plan, looks like this. On pages 7 and 8, it details that crisis team response. And what would happen as soon as an incident occurs in a school, if it's a crisis, if it's a critical need, then it triggers that response. They call into our office. We alert one of our co-coordinators. They call out social workers in the district who are devised in teams, and they respond to the school. And they will respond to the school from helping immediately in the midst of the crisis to helping with follow-up and counseling, whatever is provided. Additionally, early on, I met with school resource officer David Peasley to look at our school resource officers that were assigned to our district. And right behind that crisis template, you see the results of that meeting. And what we did was we looked at, well, we don't have enough resource officers for every school, but it would be really helpful to set up a very succinct kind of set of district assignments so that a school knows they can pick up the phone and call the particular resource officer, and with some real specific details in that. Additionally, likewise in my office, we have 3 district support specialists for a district that's quite large. And those district support specialists lend a hand answer questions, troubleshoot with families. And so we did the same thing. You see that right behind the resource officer contact list. We did that with our support specialists. And so every school knows they can pick up a phone and call someone and get an answer, or somebody will troubleshoot a situation for them. Additionally, as I mentioned, we set up a district emergency preparedness team, and that's next on the left-hand side of your document. The first page shows our initial group, and then the second page shows our group as it exists at this time. As you can see, that we have a variety of partners in this: our fire department, police, EMS, our nurses from the health department, and a number of representatives from our district leadership team and school teams. We also have NEMLIC representation, and we work also with the City of Lowell Emergency Management Program. So all of these partners have been part and parcel of all of the planning that has taken place in the district over the last 3 years. We additionally revised our school crisis plans. We had 2 different sets of plans in the district. There was one kind of manual, and I forgot to bring it with me, but it was an orange manual that every school had in their building, and then they had a separate crisis plan. When the team looked at it together as a group, we felt that it made more sense to have one concise document that was standardized across all schools. So that first document that I referred to is what each school builds their crisis plan off of. And they enter their school-specific data into it, and they submit that plan for review annually at the start of the school year. So in that, it has everything from what you would do in the case of an operational crisis, to an assault, to a lockdown procedures, etc. So each of those items are reviewed at leadership with our leaders at the start of the school year, and they in turn go out to the schools and work with their staff to ensure that everyone is up to date on that information. Additionally, we've had some of our district emergency preparedness team members trained in ALICE, trained in Prepare School Crisis Prevention and Intervention Training, and FEMA Incident Management Systems. We've developed emergency response plans, including rally and reunification points, and those are really critical, and we have seen them firsthand work for us this school year. So what you have in your packet is also a pamphlet that's online, and it also is shared out at the start of the school year with all of our parents, relative that if we ever had a mass casualty event and we had to bus children, these are the locations where parents could pick their children up. Additionally, we developed options-based response procedures, and you see a training document that's attached that we trained all of our staff district-wide in over the course of the last 2 years. We additionally developed option-based DVDs and simulation trainings for starring our very own Sergeant Peasley, and our very own students were actually in the videos training their peers on how to respond in the event of an active shooter incident. We also worked with Malden Public Schools, and with their permission, revised their student storybook, and we provided storybooks for all of our children at the early ages so that they could understand this critical incidents piece. Additionally, last year, we worked with our city officials to develop a school-based incident command system. And this is still in draft form. It will be finalized at the close of this school year. We will have a training for our staff, and we will also be conducting a tabletop exercise to try it out and see if these plans actually work, and tweak them when we don't have a crisis. Additionally, this year, we know that in our area, we've had more extreme weather than we've ever had before. And when we were looking at our safety plans, we said, we don't have a protocol for that. So this is in draft form, and we have one more review of that before it's published for all of our schools. So as you can see, what we want our safety plans to be is a living, breathing document that is looked at, revised, and we've had several major incidents in our schools this year. Each time we've had those large-scale incidents, we convene as a team, we bring in all of the responders, and we look at what worked well, what are the things that we need to improve. So additionally, we're very pleased that we were awarded a grant to bring in Safe Havens International. They're a very well-known organization nationally, and they are currently, right now as we speak, conducting safety audits in all of our schools. The last packet that is in there on the left-hand side is an example of their audit schedule. They came out all last week, and they provided nighttime audits. They looked at the exteriors of our buildings. They looked at lighting. They looked at cameras. This week and up through the first week in April, they will be in each of our schools, and they are conducting half-day trainings to really look and assess what is going on in a school building, what do we have for safety plans, what do we need to learn about and do better, and they also are conducting some simulations in each of the schools. So there is a lot that's been going on relative to safety. In particular, I know that people asked about safety protocols. In the safety plan, there is also a document, all of our safety protocols are in there, but there's also a central office notification that all of our schools follow, and that's on page 4 in the plan, which explains that in a critical incident, whether they need help or not, their notification and who they notify and why they do that. So again, these are all part and parcel of what we have been working on over the past 3 years. We're actually, our next steps are to finalize our incident command system, to do the training with the staff on the FEMA incident command system training, finalize our reunification protocols. What we do know is that we need to have very, very tight protocols in place in case of an emergency, so that when parents are coming to pick up their children, we have checks and balances in place and systems that really work so that we don't lose a single child. And we'll take the recommendations from Safe Havens that will come out in June, and we will meet again. We meet monthly as a team, and I want to say that the City of Lowell emergency management systems, the police, the fire, they truly are our partners in all of this. And I don't hesitate 1 minute to pick up the phone and say, what do you think about this? Or how do we respond? Or can you come, to the table and let's look at a specific incident? So we couldn't do it without them, and we're grateful for their support. I welcome any questions that anyone has relative to this.
Thank you, Janine. That was very good, very thorough. So as I had told you, I had worked on this with Assistant Superintendent Rorak years ago. So it's good that we have an update. It seems like you're very thorough. There's a lot of information here, which is good. A lot of good information for everybody in the school system. I'm glad to see that, as you said, the protocols, there's a good line of direction, from the start to the beginning, and it seemed like you did a very good job with this, so thank you. So I'll open it up to anybody on the Committee has a question.
Just a quick, just through you, to Assistant Superintendent Durkin, you're having an audit conducted, I must have missed part of it, so who is conducting the audit of the physical?
It's Safe Havens International. It's on the left-hand side of your packet, and I can provide you additional information. I just provided you with the schedule and what they'll be doing inside of our schools right now. And that was part and parcel from the former school committee, had requested this audit, and we were fortunate enough that in order to make it happen, we had received some grant funding to do it. So we're excited to see what we learn, because we know they've been meeting with all of our district leaders and our school-based leaders, as well as our city officials, and I think we'll learn a lot from that.
No, I think you're right, and I think, what time frame do you think that will be completed roughly?
It'll be completed in June.
Okay, good. It would be good to look at the results to see what they come up with. I'm going to guess cameras and other things would be the new technology we've been talking about on the floor. Not new technology, but different for us, I guess. But it'd also be good to see if there's any areas that we're deficient that we can really improve and work together to ensure that that's acted upon. But I like that. It's very proactive and very detailed report today, and it's obvious, Chief, that your folks have worked pretty aggressively and effectively with the school department in order to make this happen. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yes, Counselor, we have a total of 9 police officers assigned to the Lowell Public Schools. Sergeant Peasley oversees the group, and there's 8 additional officers. The way that we have them distributed is there's 3 officers assigned to the high school, and then they're set out geographically across the city in some similar to a pod. So each school resource officer that is not at the high school has 2 middle schools and then a few elementary schools geographically situated. As Assistant Superintendent Durkin said, the objective is so that each school administration knows who their school resource officer is to contact personally, and I think that serves us well in partnership.
No, and just being on the school committee, seeing some of the names you have here, a lot of these folks have good experience.
Yes.
We've seen them before, so that's a good thing. It's getting them into different schools. I know the Sullivan, the Career Academy, et cetera. I think that's a positive thing as opposed to just the high school. Well, the high school is obviously it's the biggest building, what have you. The other area, I think, is once you get the audit, and I think working together with you and your folks, with Sergeant Peasley, I think that we can hopefully come together with any areas that we need to improve. And again, I think the areas probably are maybe upgrading in the technology with cameras and what have you, but I think each school has a working camera at the front door and a lock system. I know the high school just went through a complete rehab of every single door that they have, which is numerous, and those are all pretty up-to-date technology at this point.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So I know we still do have some schools that we're working on in that area, and I know that I talked to one of the schools that had the audit yesterday and said, ooh, there were a couple of doors that that inside the building weren't locking correctly, and those are things that it would be really good for us to have that checklist and know what we need to fix and prioritize the areas once we go forward.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, it's a standing report. Just a quick question. Was any outreach done to the city's private schools, the elementary schools, as far as, through police and whatnot?
I can speak to that, Counselor. Yes, as a matter of fact, we've reached out and worked with almost every private school from Lowell Catholic on down, and they're on board with all of our protocols, our lockdown protocols. We've gone out and taught most of their students and staff. There's a couple of schools that we still have to wait to schedule that training for, but they're all going to be, eventually all going to be under the same umbrella as the Lowell school system. And it only makes sense because as the first responders, we want all of our schools, whether they're public or private, to be reacting the same way, to have the same level of safety, whether they're public or private.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just one quick follow-up, if I could, you also have the folks that are working in the various neighborhoods, stopping in to meet with the principals and what have you too, correct? So it's not just like our school resource officers, you also have your regular folks during, okay. I think that's excellent. And if we're doing it like Councilor Rourke said, we've got to make sure we're covering all the different schools.
Sure. One of the things we did proactively on this past February, as a matter of fact, is we brought in officers on all 3 of our shifts and trained them at Lowell High in different active shooter scenarios, and we're going to continue that training every vacation period. period. And we're going to move that training to different schools so that there's not just a familiarity with Lowell High, there'll be a familiarity with the different schools out there. Additionally, every September, we encourage all of our officers to go out and stop and patrol, to go in and introduce themselves to the principals, to get to familiarize themselves with the parking lots, the doors, the layouts of the school. We have 27 different schools with 27 different layouts. So it's important that all of our officers do that, and they do that.
So another interesting thing that we do have available to us is because of the technology that we use in our dispatch center and some of our mobile systems out in the field, we can embed the floor plans of each school into our computer systems in our vehicles and things like that. So the officer, when he responds to a critical incident, he can have the floor plan of that school up on his screen as he's approaching the
So
building.
is that already in place right now or something?
That is in place.
So the same for like different, like the Immaculate or St. Margaret,
Yes.
St. Mike's, St.
I think so.
The
excellent.
ones that are available,
Yes.
yes, there's still a couple of schools that have not provided that to us, but when they do, they'll be uploaded as well.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Samaras?
I want to thank everybody for the report. My question would be, what information do parents get? I don't imagine they get the complete outline, but how do you educate the parents as to what they should do, what their responsibilities are when a problem happens?
So when we rolled out this whole new options-based scenario, we provided citywide, all in many different areas of the city, trainings for our parents. We opened them up to every parent. We also provide material on the website. So as I alluded to, we have the reunification sites available for families, and also information that they can contact my office if there is additional information that they wish to have.
You're all set? No. Counselor Lane, okay. All right. I thought you'd have more questions. This was our motion together, Bill. Okay, sure.
I think,
Counsel.
one quick follow-up. So these go home at the beginning of the school year, so every parent gets a copy of this?
Yes, yes. And so we have two points of reference. We have rally points and reunification sites. Our rally points are sites where children would go to immediately upon evacuation if it's going to be an extended evacuation. We do not publicize those rally points for reasons of safety, but the reunification site is a site that's further away from the school, centralized with enough parking that in case of we'll never have one, a critical incident that parents can make it to, that's centralized.
One of the things, Council, as well, you'll notice we have a lot of community partners. If you look at those reunification points, a lot of them are local businesses in the area that, once they found out what we were doing, stepped up and almost volunteered their facilities for this. So I think that's a testament to the city.
The parochial schools are part of that as well?
Yes,
and the
they
other
are.
type of- okay,
Yes,
so
all
they have
these
their own-
plans, yeah, the rally plans and the reunification can be applied to the parochial schools as well.
Thank you.
One additional thing I'd just like to mention is this is a 24/7 process, and I think the public should know that, the management of the school, the superintendent, deputy superintendent Durkin, myself, Sergeant Peasley, we're in constant communication, sometimes up till almost midnight, depending on the particular incident. Yeah, exactly. Depending on the particular incident or threat we may be concerned about. So this is an ongoing, literally every week process as we deal with a school department in a city of this size. And then in turn, I keep my boss, the city manager, appraised of any potential issues in the school.
Thank you. Counselor Samaras?
Thank you. Do have another question. Quite often, and sometimes, we live in a serious time, just, waking up this morning and looking at the news as to what's happening. But what I have found in the past is sometimes, even though we take the proper steps, the students don't really understand what steps they're taking. I'll give you, for example, sometimes when we had bomb threats, what we found is that we do the proper walkthrough, but many students would not feel that was adequate enough, and sometimes fear would set in, and we had to find other means of explaining to the students that, yes, the school's okay. Do you have a protocol for dealing with, in plain English, fear, and fear that might be had by the students?
So yes, as part of our safety plan, we have a critical incidents response team. We have counselors available that we had a number of serious incidents this year, and we had to call on our crisis team to come into the schools to work with our own school-based counselors to work with not only students but also staff and families. And so that protocol is in place, and we continue to refine it. And when we, as I mentioned, when we have a critical incident, each time we have one, we sit down as a team, reconvene, and write up plans for improving the system.
Thank you. Anything else? Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, quick question. I know Lowell takes part in the that new drug program with the DA as far as next of kin or children involved.
Yes.
So if there's a situation where someone ODs and there's children involved, is there a school outreach that's done?
Yes, thank you, Council. That's Project CARE that the district attorney put together, and it's designed if there's an overdose, especially if there's a fatal overdose, and there's children present, it's designed, we immediately contact the mental health associates of Greater Lowell who do the triage, they do the intake over the phone with the officer that's responding. They will in turn then contact the appropriate school and coordinate with them so that the school understands what's going on behind the scenes. We were concerned as this epidemic continues to unfold. Literally, there were children going to school the next day after, unfortunately, seeing an extremely traumatic situation in their home. In one case, even a death, you know. And so clearly that child in that case needs a lot of support. And the key thing is recognizing that, starting the process, and getting that information to all of the partners, including the school department.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming in. Very thorough. It's good that, as you know, that we need to go over this and go over it and have updates. And as I said, we worked on the orange safety plan, and now we have new safety plan, new folder to hand out in every school, so that's good. So Councilor Samaras and I just thought it'd be a good idea to make sure that the public knows, and this was a great presentation. It's very thorough, went through all the partnerships, which people don't think about. But as Sergeant Peasley said, rally points and police, fire, all the staff, top to bottom, everybody's got to know what's going on. And then the outreach for the students if there is a crisis. So we thank you. Very good report. Thanks for coming in. Next on the docket, we have ordinances regarding jaywalking, bicycling, and skateboarding on the sidewalks. So my agenda left me here, so. Why don't I open that up to the manager? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you to the members of the subcommittee. There are actually two components to addressing the issue of jaywalking and bicycling and skateboarding on the sidewalks in the city. The first component is education. We have to educate the residents and visitors to Lowell that these activities are not allowable in our city and will not be tolerated. What we're looking at is through our Complete Streets program, which we are implementing now, and Kevin Coughlin and Nicholas Bossonetto are here to describe what that is we're starting an educational component relative to these issues. Not only will it include curriculum in the schools, we're securing a video that we will be publicizing relative to this, and also signage throughout the city to make sure people know that they cannot do these activities in the city. And then the second avenue is enforcement. And we are going to enforce these violations to the fullest extent of the law. Some of the issues are difficult with fullest extent of the law. For example, jaywalking, the fine is $1, and I know it goes up exponentially after 4 offenses to $2. So what we're doing is we're working with the local delegation to make sure that legislation to increase that fine goes through. So what I'd like to do is, first of all, turn the presentation over to Kevin Coughlin and Nicholas Bostonetto to talk about the educational component, and then to Superintendent of Police Taylor to talk about the enforcement component. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coughlin?
Thank you. It's better. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the approximately the last 10 to 11 months, there's been a formal committee formed by the manager of bicycle and pedestrian safety, which has been meeting regularly. The first charge of that committee, which has a wide representation from the community, including representation from the police department, local residents involved in bicycling, bicycle enthusiasts, public safety individuals, individuals involved in planning, city planners. The first part of that was to work on efforts, working on the complete streets policy and developing that. Having been successful in that, and the manager having successfully submitted to the council for your approval, we set on the second goal, the second goal of which was to create a multi-targeted program for public education having to do with educating for safety in the downtown in the springtime, specifically with skateboards. Then, in addition to that, identifying 3 additional targets of information, the bicyclers and the bicycle enthusiasts, the pedestrians that will be using the different ways, not only downtown, but also in the neighborhoods, and then the drivers who will be encountering and sharing the streets with those who are going to be using it. So we have selected a series of action items. We know that, like the snow melting in the spring, the skateboarders appear in the downtown and it becomes a big issue. You're notified of it constantly. The police get many complaints, and the traffic engineer, Nicholas Bostonetto, and myself, at the manager's direction, are devising a series of action items aimed first to try and have it be very simple so that there can be some distribution made at the schools and at the school level on what actually the rules are for skateboards downtown. Because in some instances, we've had feedback that when students using skateboards downtown on sidewalks, all of that are confronted, they find that they, in fact, do not know the rules, or they think the rules are the opposite in that. So it's first as a clarification of the rules and trying to outfit both the police and the businesses downtown with just a small card with the rules of what's correct and where is not correct to have skateboards and be riding. Have that be able to be distributed by all the businesses downtown, have that distributed throughout the high school and the school system, and then have additional notifications to be available to the police officers who are downtown when there are infractions, so that they can have compassion in hand at the beginning and offer a warning with some instruction, and then in the second piece, actually work toward enforcement. We're targeting that this should be available somewhere around the first week of May, and be able to work forward with that so that as the spring comes downtown, we have that. So when we talk about distribution of this information, we also talk about what are the areas where young people would find their news and learn that. So social media obviously has to be a piece of that, as well as working with other groups in order to get the word out. We're looking at student newspapers, working with the schools, trying to identify all those areas. And we would include some of the private schools also in order to try and have the proper regulations enforced downtown for the protection of the public, and also for the enjoyment of the downtown by those who do abide by the rules. Secondly, for bikers, we've had several meetings with local biker groups. We've also tried to reach out to Mass DOT and the Mass Bike Organization in order to not reinvent the wheel. There are some very good programs that have been instituted throughout several cities, so we're taking some of the best of them, re-summarizing that in a brochure and also a map of proper bike routes in the city. There was some years ago a bike map that was done in the city, but there has been such great improvement in the last couple of years due to action by the council and the manager in terms of certain areas for opening them up to good biking that we think it's time to do another map, and that will be available. That map distribution will also be accompanied by some instruction and rules of the road for bikers, because there's confusion about, you know, insisting on your right-of-way and how protected are you in bike lanes and where there aren't bike lanes and all. And there is a difference as you get out into the neighborhoods and you don't have bike lanes for rules of the road also. So in distribution of that material, we would look, in addition to that, to maybe more of the traditional means. We would actually utilize them by way of the bike groups. We would also go on some of the local TV stations. We'd utilize UMass Lowell, our other partners, and also Middlesex Community College and some of the other areas to distribute those. The third target that we have is pedestrians themselves, because one of the things about complete streets is that we really want to have all our roads be shared by everyone. So we actually are taking quite good steps to try and instruct individuals on how to walk safely. Where there are sidewalks, of course, they're easily utilized. Where there may not be sidewalks, how you walk properly in the street, you walk against the traffic, all some of those very simple things that, you know, make sharing our streets more safe and better for the enjoyment of everyone. And then particularly in the neighborhoods, as the spring comes, people want to be outside and they want to get moving. And we are partnering with Mass in Motion. We're partnering with some of the other organizations to provide safe instruction for routes to schools, working closely with the police department and reaching out to the school departments for those. And then the last actually is the drivers of vehicles. When some of the bike routes and the bike lanes were first installed, there was a lot of confusion by drivers as to whether or not you can drive in the lane, not drive in the lane, can you park in the lane, those kinds of things. So we hope to try and clarify some of that and to help instruct drivers, even to be more conscious of bikers around them, that you, for instance, before you would open your car door randomly and swing it open, you might want to look in your mirror to see if someone's coming by. Different communities in other parts of the Commonwealth actually have had quite heavy driver education regarding simple things like opening the door and whatnot. But the idea of getting used to the bike lanes, we've had some upgrades in that, in the colorations of the lanes, the width of the lanes, and where they are, the standardization. The manager has made that a priority over this last year, and we hope to address that as part of that too. With that, the traffic engineer has made sure that all these recommendations are in conformance with the standard procedures of our complete streets policy and are aligned with the standards of the police department and the planning for the city. So it's really a heavy education component, and we'll be working with the manager to keep you updated, and we are timing that for the end of April, the 1st of May. Thank you.
Thank you. Just jump in with a quick question, Councilor Rook.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a quick question maybe for the chief to answer. I think the genesis of the jaywalking problem stems at the University Crossing, actually both sides of the Howe Bridge. I remember a little while back that UML police chief were going to monitor that situation with actual officers at those
right.
2 points. Has that happened yet? Do you notice any difference in that area?
You know, I drive by that area quite frequently. I think it maybe has gotten a little bit better, but it's very much dependent upon the calendar of the university. And, you know, quite candidly, I think if the university could help us and put some police officers up there, and I'll make sure I make that contact again.
Yeah, only because I take that route every day, going to and from work, and it does, both sides seem to be the major problem of,
Right.
you know, and I understand the students and hustling the class, but
Right.
they jet out diagonally and so forth. So any way that we can get the, UMass police, Lowell police out there, I think would be an advantage.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Sure, Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. In the same vein, coming by Middlesex Community College, between Middlesex Community College and their library, I mean, the jaywalking there it's really out of hand. I mean, there's 2 crosswalks but at certain times, a change of class, they literally use all areas of the street, and that does do a lot to hamper traffic at that time. So as much, I agree with Councilor Rourke on the other area with the university, but this is an area that has to be worked on. Thank you.
We'll take care of that.
Mr. Manager, did you?
Yeah, so education is a key component. I found it myself. I was doing one of my walks downtown, and there was a young man on a bicycle, and I said, "Hey, you can't ride your bike on the sidewalk." He says, "Who says I can't?" And that's what made me think. I said, he doesn't know that he can't ride, so I think the education is going to be key. The second thing is enforcement. What we need to do is we need to make sure that the police officer has a ticket booklet that he is going to be able to issue a ticket to somebody who's jaywalking or bicycling or skateboarding on the street improperly. So what we're now doing is we've already started meeting. We're formulating a ticket book. It's not only going to apply to these issues, it's going to apply, for example, if there's a car parked on a sidewalk. There's going to be a checkoff area for a police officer to cite somebody for that. So the first thing is developing the ticket form so that we can immediately start enforcing these. And then the second thing is to develop a data system so that we can enter all of this data into a system and then track who owes us the fines and if they've paid the fines and how we can chase them. Because the only real way to enforce this is to make sure the person pays the fine. So I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent Taylor so you can explain some of the things we're doing down in that component.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Yes, as the good weather approaches, our police officers that are assigned downtown, they'll be actively out there trying to enforce the various ordinances that the council has enacted, the skateboarding, the bicycling, the jaywalking issue, which is a statewide issue, and some of the other disorder crimes that happen down there. And I think the ticket book that the manager just spoke about will be of great assistance to us, because currently, if we don't have a ticket book, which would make the whole penalty process internal to the city hall here, we'd have to put a complaint application into district court, which is, not efficient, not the way to go. This will streamline the process, and the officers will be able to do it very quickly, essentially the equivalent of a parking ticket. So I hope to get that up and running very quickly. That's a really valuable tool that our officers downtown trying to conduct this enforcement activity will have at their disposal.
Council Rourke?
Yeah, Joe, I think it's a great idea, working in the court system, someone just can take
Yeah.
a year to 18 months. So I think the way you're approaching it is much better and much quicker. So thank you.
Thank you. Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do like the outreach that's happening here. I mean, obviously, it's has been a problem for some time, really. We get several complaints. But, I don't consider the bicyclists who use the bike lanes, I don't consider them a problem. It's these young kids who literally come downtown just to skateboard and bike that are really a threat. They're trying to show off, and they're bombing down the sidewalks. And really, I've seen families literally barrel out of the way get shelter near the building just to get out of their way. So now, Mr. Manager, when you said signage, now we're going to have proper signage in the downtown that's sporadic and it's going to indicate no bicycling or skateboarding on the sidewalks, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yep, Mr. Manager.
To you, Mr. Chairman, as you look at the signs right now, they're minuscule. We actually have signs, but you can't see them. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get bigger signs and signs with, showing that you can't have a bicycle or a skateboard or that, so that it's clearly visible to anybody that's walking down the street that it's not allowed on the sidewalks. But there are signs there down, if you don't know they're there like me, because you can't see them. So we've got to work on that part of it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jaywalking has always been a thorn in my side, having heard from different downtown residents that had to jump out of the way of bicycles or skateboarders. And I understand that they like their sport, but I don't think it should be at the expense of the pedestrian walking on the sidewalk, not violating any laws. I really get perturbed with the older people that understand the law, and they have this attitude like, so hit me, and they just walk right out, not on a path or a walkway. They walk right in front of cars to the point where you have to stop on a dime, and you're frightened by it. It traumatizes you. But I'm concerned about the signage that says no bicycles on sidewalks. It should be accompanied by the next words that say, subject to fines of whatever, well, I hate to say $1, but for jaywalking, but subject to fines and will be strictly enforced. I know you don't want to sign that long, but it's one thing to warn them, but they should warn them that they're going to pay out of their wallet. That's my concern. Thank you.
Mr. Leary?
Just first, I think the education piece is good. I think when people don't know, and then once you do a few tickets, when people get a jaywalking ticket for the first time, it'll be interesting. I mean, they do it in Georgetown, in D.C., or they used to do it anyway, and it does stop it once you get the few of those. The word gets out and people move. But I think kind of the flip side to all that, the education is, so you're talking about, young teenagers, young kids going out using their skateboards. Do we have enough skateboard parks for these? I know they're around, I don't know the numbers, but you're looking at people, they come downtown for the challenge, whether it's down here in front of the city hall, or if it's I was seeing some young kids going over to, young teenagers going over by the Hamilton Canal because it's a challenge for them. Do we have enough parks for these people to utilize their sport? So I think a combination of the information, like you're going to be warned if you're going to be here, you're going to get a ticket, and then actually enforcing it. That'll be enough. I don't know if we need these massive signs out there. I don't know if we want to obstruct things, but I'll leave it up to you to make those decisions on it. I just think education, a couple months into it, and then enforcement, you'll see a massive change. And if we tie it into the UMass Lowell folks as well, the behavior itself you'll have that deep disruption of the behavior because there'll be a penalty associated with it.
Council Samaras and then Council Belanger.
Thank you, Chairman Leahy. No, I want to thank the city manager and his staff for making this presentation, because over the past year, I know I personally had a motion on every one of these issues, but I also know, looking at the records, that Councilor Mercer, all the councils at one time or another have had a motion regarding some of these issues. And these are issues that, sometimes our citizens don't understand, why can't we solve the problem? But I know in talking to Chief Taylor, we don't want to have our policemen attacking students, children in the downtown. It's, how do you do this? But I think you're offering a great approach, one, to educate the public, educate the people who are doing these issues, and then talking about consequences, but measured consequences. And I'm very pleased to see that. I know at one of the points, Mr. Croto from UTEC has developed a video as a project and I've seen that video on jaywalking. It's an excellent start. It's just something that really would make young adults or any adult think about what they're doing. So I think they should be included in this process because they have a good understanding of the teenage mind, so to speak. But I want to commend everybody, because it's very hard to go back to our constituents and say we can't deal with bicycles on a sidewalk, as Councilor Belanger stated, or skateboards on the sidewalk. These are issues that we have to deal with, and it's not going to be done overnight, but I think if it's a concerted effort, we're in the right area, and this will work. But I'm just very pleased with what I hear tonight. I know it can work. Thank you.
Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One point I'd like to make is on the skateboard parks. Now, I believe we have 4 skateboard parks dedicated throughout the city for skateboarders. And that could be, Mr. Chairman, through you to Superintendent Taylor, that his officers who are on the streets and telling these kids, get off the sidewalk. Look, we got 4 parks for you throughout the city. The city has spent money for, so you can entertain yourselves. Downtown's not the place. I know Middlesex Street, Hadley Field is one. I know there are 3 others, according to my conversation with Commissioner Bellegarde months ago. But that is, the city has, we want to keep our kids busy. And, we have parks assigned to skateboarding. So I think that's what the officers on the street could tell these kids. This isn't a place, period. So I think between proper signage, education, and enforcement, we can get this well under control. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask the traffic engineer a question. As far as the jaywalking goes, and I know that this is a challenge, getting all the crosswalks painted, and we have the trouble spots over at Middlesex Community College and then up Merrimack Street, Central Market. But would it help if these crosswalks, right now, we just have the white paint down. Would it help if they were different colors, like the bright orange, or like what we did up on Andover Street, the brown, or some sort of a color? And that would help with the enforcement. You know, when police officers are downtown, they could say, hey, you have to use the crosswalks. They'd be very apparent that they're there. And then second of all, which kinds of leads us into what the mayor had brought up before with these bids, you know, maybe we could get some contributions from the colleges to help us keep up with the crosswalks as far as keeping them painted in the downtown area, because, you know, Middlesex uses the far end of Merrimack Street. University is all throughout downtown up Merrimack Street. So, you know, it's in everybody's best interest to keep these crosswalks painted and vibrant so that people will use them to help with the jaywalking. So would you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, sir. First of all, the color of the crosswalks is per the manual and uniform traffic control devices. So the crosswalks have to be white paint. We're really not allowed to use all kinds of different colors just because we want the motorist to always identify the crosswalk as a crosswalk. If you start painting them different colors with different designs, then the motorist doesn't automatically react to that being a crosswalk, and it can create confusions. So just for safety, we keep them the white, just like you see them. The question about keeping them painted, of course, that is an issue, keeping them, because they wear out because people ride over them. But I think that's a great idea of speaking with UMass Lowell and maybe MCC to see if they want to contribute towards. I know UMass Lowell is very interested. They've actually have painted crosswalks in the past, and I think if we somehow enter into an agreement and tell them, okay, you paint these ones, we'll paint the rest, maybe something like that would help. I would just like to clarify one thing for everybody watching at home. Bicycling and skateboarding on the sidewalks is prohibited in the downtown area. Outside of the downtown area, we actually do allow biking on the sidewalk. It's probably safer that way out in the neighborhoods. So the ordinances are just for downtown. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Good clarification. Thank you. Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's a quick question, Nick. I know that you say that the crosswalk lines have to be painted white. I've seen some cities across the country actually utilize art or artwork within the crosswalks that draw the attention of those people that are on foot to cross in that area instead of, jaywalking. Is there any thought ever given to that before in the city?
Yes, that's actually incorrect to do it that way. The way it works is the Federal Highway Administration sets out the manual and uniform traffic control devices, and that's the law. It's not a guide, it's actually the law. And as we accept federal funds through the state for transportation, we have to go by, and the Federal Highway Administration has come out and specifically stated that no pictographs, meaning no picture, no designs are allowed with it, because they do, and that's so I, as a traffic engineer on behalf of the city, for reasons of liability, would follow FHWA protocol of no pictographs and just keeping the colors as they mandated.
So those federal laws, those dictate city-owned streets?
Well, yes, because we receive funding through state DOT. Plus, it's like I said, if somebody gets hit on a crosswalk that's painted all funky, and the city could open up to liability. So,
thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? All right, I'd like to thank everybody for coming down. Thank you for all the work on this issue, and look forward to the progress. Thank you. So, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.